For the next hour, you'll be leaving the Show Me state and entering the Show Me the Money state. So stop what you're doing, grab a pen, and get ready to learn. Randy and Jake Floyd of Floyd Financial Group will be your guides for straight talk and honest answers about living the life you deserve in retirement. So prepare to be empowered. Now, here are your Show Me the Money hosts, Randy Floyd, Jake Floyd, and Jeff Shade.
Thank you so much. Welcome to Show Me the Money with Randy and Jake Floyd, the radio show that gives you the straight talk and honest answers you need to help you reach your wealth management and retirement goals through smart investing and careful planning. On today's show, we're going to be talking about why retirement isn't as easy as it used to be, annuities, guaranteed income, or confusing trap. We'll also talk about setting it and forgetting it. That's how you run out of money. And what's your why in retirement? My name's Jeff Shade. As always, just here to ask the questions, but of course, you know the words of wisdom and solid advice. They come from Randy and Jake Floyd, Floyd Financial Group. Hey, Randy, how you doing today?
Doing very well, Jeff. How about you?
I am doing fantastic now that I'm with you guys in the radio. Hey, Jake, how is your weekend treating you?
I'm doing awesome, Jeff. Thanks for asking.
Certainly welcome, my friend. Hope everybody else is having a great weekend. We always appreciate you joining us right here for Show Me the Money. Well, guys, you can just feel it. Spring has finally hit us here in the Ozarks. Everything is greening up and the dogwoods are blooming and people are getting outside again. And it's that time of the year where everybody is mowing the lawns and fishing and finally shaking off winter and maybe even thinking a little bit more about the future too, which is what we're going to be diving into today. A lot of people, Randy, think that retirement is just about hitting a number and walking away, but more and more, we're hearing that it's just not that simple, is it?
No, really, it's not. There's a lot of emotion always attached to retirement, really. People don't talk about that very much. It's generally more boiled down to, hey, have we got enough and can we make ends meet and that sort of thing. But really, you have to kind of get prepared for it as well mentally, because all of a sudden, here you're going to find yourself with all this time on your hands. And then even though you've been married to your lovely bride somewhere between probably 35 and 50 years, you're all of a sudden you're together all the time, so that you have to figure that deal out too. But getting back to the financial side of retirement, we've worked a long time. By the time we get there, we've had a paycheck or maybe two paychecks if husband and wife both were working. And then all of a sudden we have to sit back and go, okay, here's Social Security, which we know is only 30% of probably what we need at most.
Right.
And we have to figure out, how do we create an income stream out of this, and what does that look like?
Yeah, and I was seeing a little story on CBS Sunday Morning a couple of weeks ago about people trying to survive just on Social Security, with the average one a little over $2,000. And these were people that were 70-ish, maybe older than that, who are still holding down part-time jobs. One woman worked at CBS, and it pointed out that by, I think, 2030, the number of people over 75 working will have increased something like 50-60%, so Social Security just doesn't make it. And the inspiration for this article was my aunt and uncle, remembering them, and they had just Social Security, and they were living just fine on that. But the year was about 1975-76. Things are a lot different today, aren't they?
One of the things I often tell people, if you look back over your shoulder and really look at how retirement used to be, it was basically, there weren't all these things to buy like there is today, right? I mean, all this stuff that you have to pay for, because TV was pretty well free to the person watching it. Mm-hmm. And today, I don't think you can watch any free TV that I know of.
Not at all. I'm amazed when I think about what I pay for television to think that back in the day, we used to see it for free. It is unbelievable. And the telephone bill, I remember when it was like $12.
And also the phones today, if you want the latest and greatest, it's $1,000 for a phone, or you have to pay for it at $25 a month for 48 months or something like that.
Right.
I mean, so you can trade every little whip stitch to get the newest thing that's out there. And yes, I did say whip stitch. That's something my grandma used to say.
I like it.
But anyway, we live at a different level than we used to today. And sometimes we hear people saying, man, everything is just so costly and so expensive and so high. And I don't disagree that things have gone up, but we just live at a different level. Used to be you had one phone in the house. Now everybody has 3 or 4 cell phones, and all the stuff we've talked about here. It just costs more today to live, and yesterday's luxury is today's necessity, is kind of what's happened to us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people confuse wants with needs. We don't necessarily need 5 or 6 TVs in the house. You've got an emergency one. I mean, what would happen if a TV went out? You panic and you go get another one out of the closet, or you go buy another one. And you're right about the cell phones. My Uncle Russ had a 62 Nova station wagon. He was just fine with that. And my Aunt Billy, that was her real name, she was driving the 67 Impala, and she was fine with that too. But it's a lot different today. An old pickup truck, I remember back in the day, a couple $1,000s, you get one of those. But today, Randy, I don't buy pickup trucks much. I know you're more familiar with it, but is it hard to spend $80,000 for a pickup truck today?
You can easily do that. If you want to buy the top of the line 3/4 ton diesel pickup today, you can get close to $100,000 in those things now. So
oh my gosh,
it's pretty crazy. But yeah, 80 is pretty easy to spend. I remember the last car that I bought when I was let's see, that would have been in I'm going to tell my age now, right? In 1979, I brought a brand new Z28 Camaro. Right?
Oh, wow, yeah.
For $7,500.
Oh, my gosh. You were living large.
And I was looking at some of these Camaros. Now, they stopped making Camaro, I guess, last year. But
yes.
Some of the last ones that were similar to what the Z28 would have been were $60,000, some 40 years later. So It's pretty interesting how much that has gone up, because that's like 6 times, 7 times what it would be. So yeah, things do cost more today. And of course, that's why it's really important that everybody is on track with a plan for retirement, not just, I hope I'm going to get there. It's something we got to plan for.
Right. And hope is not a plan. I've heard about this 80% rule, Randy, that you need about 80% of your income in retirement. Do you think that still holds up today?
Yeah, I think we need to break down a couple of things to understand that. And I think it probably would, because when we're working and we're getting our gross paycheck, we look at, let's say our income, let's say our salary is $100,000 a year. Well, what we really need to look at is, what do we actually bring home out of that $100,000? By the time we pay Social Security and we pay Medicare, we pay Medicaid, that you always pay through that time frame. You never get out of that. Social Security, you'd pay it on 100% of that on the $100,000, because about 160-something thousand is now where you get to stop paying Social Security tax. But also, if you're funding a 401k or a HSA or something like that, that's coming out of there. So many times we have to help people to understand, yes, you got $100,000 a year in income, or maybe you got $200,000 if you got people working. But what are you really bringing home? What's actually hitting your bank account? And we need to look at those numbers. And so I would say that probably the 80% rule of net take home, it's about right. And what's going to happen once you retire, of course, you're going to stop funding retirement plans.
Talking with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group, we're talking about why retirement is just not what it used to be here. Our phone number, 417-889-7233. If you'd like to come and sit down with Randy and Jake and talk about your retirement and how it's a lot harder than it used to be, 417-889-7233. All set to answer any questions that you might have. There's absolutely no cost and there is no obligation. And you can make that call right now if you want. Ashley will return your call during the week and set up that appointment for you. Once again, that number, 417-889-7233. Before we continue with the conversation, Randy, I had this flashback. We were talking about vehicles and trucks and so forth. I remember my Uncle Russ, as I said, they had the 62 Nova wagon, but he did have a pickup truck, now that I remember it, and it was a 49 Chevy pickup truck. It was green, and he drove that every day. On the side of it, it said Acme Boat Company. We lived in Ohio, but he made folding boats back years and years ago. And so it was the Acme Boat Company, and he chewed tobacco. And he had a coat hanger inside this truck that he had fashioned, and he had a coffee can in there that he would spit the tobacco in, but he'd spit it out the side of the truck as well, too. So on the driver's side, there was like a black or brown stripe that went all the way from the driver's door all the way to the back of that truck. But I remember that pickup truck quite well. He drove that thing forever and ever. That was a 49
So I do have one
Chevy.
question.
Yeah.
I do have one question along that line.
Yeah.
Was Wile E. Coyote his co-pilot?
I didn't think of that.
The Acme Boat Company.
Yeah, that's what he called it, the Acme Boat Company. Remember driving with him in the truck a couple of times? The ventilation in those trucks was nothing but just a little fan that was mounted up on the dashboard. Let's talk about how expensive health care has become. Back in the day, of course, you had Medicare, and that was all you needed. Didn't need any more than that because it covered everything. Health care seems to be one of the biggest unknowns today in retirement. How big a factor is it, even if you do have Medicare?
Year over year, just looking back even the last 3 or 4 years, it's probably up 20% or so, maybe even a little bit more than that, depending on what we're talking about and what area you live in. It can be one of the biggest threats to retirement. What does it cost just in premiums to keep our Medicare supplement plan in place? What are the out-of-pocket costs that we have? What's the deductible on our prescription drug card? And, if we don't have a plan G as in George, generally we're only going to get 20 days of rehabilitative therapy, and then we have to start paying a huge copay to remain in rehab. And of course, then we won't talk about the cost of, we will talk about the cost of long-term care.
Yeah.
That is probably in the realm of nearly, even here, $275, could be $300 a day. So you're talking $100,000 a year.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Well, when you're talking about Medicare doesn't cover everything, and I'm thinking about how many people need hearing aids. Have you priced how much hearing aids are lately, Randy?
Well, it just so happens that I help a gentleman who doesn't really have any family, and we had to get him some hearing aids, and they were $7,500.
Oh, my gosh. $7,500. That's like, if you're on Social Security, that's nearly 4 months of Social Security to pay for hearing aids.
Yeah, of average payment, you're exactly right.
Yeah, that's incredible. And dental work as well. There's another big one. Medicare doesn't pay for dental work. Have you priced how much that is lately?
Yeah. Well, fortunately, some of the Advantage plans, if you have a Medicare Advantage plan,
right,
they do include help with hearing aids, help with dental, and help with vision that traditional Medicare does not do.
Right. Vision's another thing that I didn't think about. Now, you can buy vision insurance. I don't think it's very much. I have one called VSP, and it's something like $25 a month, but still, over a period of time, it's a little bit of money, but it does help out when you go to get your glasses. Let's talk about long-term care. Most people, I was talking to my wife the other day, and we were sitting in a little breakfast restaurant, and the people going by me, if they were moving any slower, they'd be going backwards because they looked like they were barely able to stand up.
Right.
And I was thinking one of them had kind of an aide with them, and another had a family member. Long-term care is something that I think probably most people are going to have in their lifetimes at one time or another. What's your opinion on that one?
Yeah, according to the government, 7 of 10 people, 70%, will need some type of long-term care help before they leave the planet. Now, for some, it's worse than others. Depending on what your health looks like and what's happened to you, we have people in their 60s today that need lots of help. And then we have a lot of people that make it to 80 before they need help, or some never need it. And my cousin's mother-in-law just died at 90, I think she was 95, and she made a garden and mowed her own yard right up till nearly the day she died.
Yeah.
So we never quite know, but she's the exception to the rule. And so it's something that everybody needs to talk about and address. How are we going to take care of this if something happens and we need long-term care, and how do we fund it? Just what does that look like? Because most of us know it's out there and we've seen people that have been there, but we haven't really thought about it for ourselves. And how would it be if all of a sudden we couldn't get out of bed on our own?
Yeah, that would be very, very difficult. Long-term care is so expensive. And, a lot of people think, well, I'll just get a long-term care insurance policy. But that works until it doesn't, right?
Well, the long-term care insurance policies, one of the things that happens to us as humans is we are procrastinators, right? So we think, well, I don't need to buy long-term care insurance yet.
I'll get it when I need it, right?
Yeah, I often tell people, I'll get it when I need it. I say, well, that's kind of like wrecking your car and then buying car insurance.
Yeah.
You can't really do that.
House is on fire. I better get that fire insurance. Yeah.
So you have to plan ahead, and there's good plans out there, but all of them cost money. But it is something that everyone needs to explore how they plan to pay for that and what that looks like should the worst happen.
And Randy, a lot of people look at retirement and say, well, Social Security's great. It's not going to be everything. So I'm just going to go back to work. That is something that I've seen recently where a lot of people just don't want to retire anymore. When I go to the Ace Hardware to get a little rubber washer for the garden hose or the little flapper for the toilet or something, I don't know what I'm looking for. There's always a fellow in there that looks 75, 80 years of age, and he's not alone.
That's happening more and more. And we're seeing that people, in many cases, if they've taken care of themselves and moved a lot and exercised and keep going, they're just not ready to be done. Some like what they've done for work, or they like to work part-time at what they used to do, just to have the association with people. And sometimes people turn their hobbies into income. I have one guy that likes to build furniture, so he's going to build furniture until he can't build furniture. It's just something he likes to do and makes a little bit of money with it. I would say that for some people, it's financial, that they want the little extra support. For some people, it's emotional. And for some people, it's both. They need a little bit of financial help, and they just like being able to be connected to other people in a business environment.
Right. And I was seeing a story about a gentleman who is making pottery, and he's 102 years old. Talking with Randy and Jake of Floyd Financial Group. I think the takeaway here, Randy, is the fact that what was your father's retirement is just not your retirement anymore. Does retirement today really present a lot more challenges than it used to be for you?
Well, everything today, Jeff, moves faster than ever before. It was once said that, I think this has probably been 20 years ago, that in one issue of USA Today, there was more new information than your grandpa got in a lifetime.
Right.
And today, if you realize how much social media, TV, driving down the road billboards, the radio, all the stuff, instant text messaging, just how much information is coming at people, it is amazing. And so that produces change and fear and anxiety and all those different things. So part of what we do here at Floyd Financial Group is try to help people stay in touch. We keep our hand on the tiller here every day, keeping the boat straight and working at keeping everything in alignment as much as we can. But it is an ever-changing environment. And for people in retirement, they don't really want to be worried every day about what's going on. They want to know that they have somebody that is watching what's going on and is going to be making moves to help them keep a secure retirement future.
There's been a great conversation. Randy, I want to talk to our listeners here for just a moment. What if the biggest threat to your retirement isn't a crash, but a slow failure, and you don't see it happening? Well, that's exactly what's happening to a lot of people right now here in the Ozarks. Inflation, rising healthcare, taxes quietly eating away at their savings, and by the time they realize it, it's too late to fix. So if you're within 5 to 10 years of retirement, you're already retired, you can't afford to guess. That's why we're offering this complimentary Floyd Financial Group Retirement Review. We'll show you where your plan could fail and how to fix it before it does. Call 417-889-7233 right now, 417-889-7233. Ask for your Floyd Financial Group Retirement Review. No cost, no obligation, no judgment. We'll meet you where you are. Don't wait until the damage is already done. Okay, Randy and Jake, let's take a break. When we come back here on Show Me the Money, we're going to be talking about annuities, the ins and outs of those when our program continues here on 104.1 FM, KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk.
Ready for another helping of some more real money talk? Thought so. Now, here's another serving of Show Me the Money with your hosts, Randy and Jake Floyd, with Jeff Shade.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Randy and Jake. You're listening to Show Me the Money. And in this segment, we're going to talk about the A word. That's the annuities. Are they good, bad, ugly, confusing, or what?
Or maybe it's all of those. Randy, when people hear the word annuity, they either love them or they run the other way. Why are annuities, do you think, so misunderstood?
Well, I think that's just it. They are misunderstood. People would come in and I'd say, well, hey, do you understand the stock market? Absolutely, I do. So tell me how your mutual fund works. And that's kind of how that conversation goes.
Yeah.
So at surface, we feel like sometimes we know about things, and maybe we really don't know as much about it as we thought. So let's just talk about annuities in general. There's basically 4 types, but in essence, it's a contract with an insurance company that gives you certain guarantees and certain options to grow your money, preserve your money, and actually have income to spend. So there's really many different types. So basically what we're talking about here is there's basically 4 types. There's the immediate annuity. So just like it sounds, what happens in immediate annuity, sometimes called a SPIA for single premium immediate annuity. People often equate this with a pension, and many times this is how pensions are funded. Is you have a lump sum of money, you dump that in there, and then you get a payout for life. But that payout for life many times is only on your life, or if you're married, you can get it to pay out for your spouse. But here's the thing. Those immediate annuities, generally speaking, once that second person passes, if there's money left in that contract, that's when the payments are going to end. There's nothing else going to come out of there. Just what you set up in the beginning, either your lifetime or maybe you and your spouse's lifetime. That's the immediate annuity. And then there's nothing for the beneficiaries. And this is where people sometimes get confused. And they think that all annuities work this way. And nothing could be further from the truth, okay? And the single premium immediate annuity, I will tell you, is something we rarely use, generally only for Medicaid purposes, which is a whole other conversation. is the only time we would use one. Secondly, there's these things we call them MYGAs. That's MYGA for multi-year guarantee annuity. These kind of look like a CD at the bank. In other words, you go in, you set up for a term of maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and they guarantee you a specific interest rate on your money for that time frame. Now, what's great about these contracts is they are exactly that. They will do exactly what they said they would do, not one thing less and not one thing more. So it's important that people understand what they're signing up for. So the multi-year guarantee annuities can be great for people that are conservative. They don't want any risk on their money, and they just want a paycheck every month because they will actually write you a paycheck out of those things each month. And so these things are generally, like right now, there's probably 5% on these things that you can get, certainly 4+% that you can still get as a guaranteed income stream.
So, Randy, what you're saying makes a lot of sense, and to me, they sound pretty good, but then why do some people actually not like them? They dislike them. They hate them, so to speak.
So, again, I think it goes back to they don't understand them. Number two, they say, well, but my money is tied up for that period of time. And that's true. It's a trade-off, and everything in life is a trade-off, right? Now, the trade-off needs to be something that's manageable. So here's the thing. If you've got $500,000 in your retirement account, not all $500,000 goes into an annuity contract. That would be crazy because I need some access to liquid cash outside of that, right? So only a portion is ever good to go into that contract. Now, the next type of annuity is a variable type annuity, and a variable annuity is one that's tied to the stock market, and you make gains or losses due to what happens in the stock market. And you can put guaranteed income riders on those where they will say, hey, we guarantee at a certain point to pay you an income for life, and you don't give up the right for your beneficiaries to receive the balance of that contract, whatever's left. Then we have this thing called a fixed index annuity, and what it does is it combines the best of both worlds. It combines the ability to earn money in a variable annuity with the safety of the MYGA we talked about, the multi-year guarantee. It's included in there. So it's fixed, meaning we can't lose our principal. It tracks an index and gives us gains based on what that index does. We get a portion of those gains. And then there's one last one I'm going to throw out here, and this should tell people that really what you need on the annuity side of things is an education. That's all. That's really what you need, because I promise you, these things do have great value. It's about a $32 billion a year market. So we know that it's out there to stay and it's going to work. But the RILA is the registered index linked annuity. And what it basically says is we give you a buffer on the downside. So let's say that you want a 10% protection to the downside, but you can have up to 20% of the market gains on the upside. And those things reset every year. So it's one of those things where you can get the lion's share of the gains and give yourself some downside protection. So all of these things we just talked about, well, I don't expect anybody to remember one word that I just said. The thing that I would want people to take away from this is that you don't know what it is you don't know. And before you make a judgment, let's get educated, because they can be a vital part of a retirement plan. Not the whole plan. I want to be clear on that. Not the whole plan, but a vital part of a good, sound retirement plan.
And Randy, if our listeners do not remember anything that you've said here about annuities, they can call 417-889-7333. Come on and sit down and talk to you or Jake here at Floyd Financial Group and ask your questions about annuities. I've heard of fixed and, of course, fixed index. I like that idea, where your annuity is tracking an index and you get a part of the upside. You don't get the whole thing. But nevertheless, annuities sound pretty good. Now, I remember back in the day, we were talking about aunts and uncles and parents and things. There were things called pensions. Are annuities really a pension substitute? Is that how we should think about them?
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty accurate way to think about it. Again, they give us more options than a pension, because again, if I've worked at the company for 30 years and I got $500,000 out there in a pension fund, and they say, hey, well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll pay you $25,000 a year for life. Once you make that choice to accept that $25,000 a year for life, your $500,000 is gone. You have now a promise of payments. That's what a pension is, promise of payments. And you don't have that lump sum anymore. I'm telling you that there are annuity contracts today that will create that income for you and let you keep your principal balance. Ding, 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 ding. That's a win-win. Okay. That's what we want to do.
I love it when you add your own sound effects in there, Randy. It just saves me having to go look for those too. Okay, so there's a lot of upsides to annuities, but let's talk about some of the downsides. I mean, honestly, what are the downsides to annuities?
So the real downside to an annuity is you will never capture 100% of the upside of the gain. But especially with the fixed index annuity, you will never lose any money when the market goes down. So that's the good and the bad. The other part of it is that people don't like is we have to commit to a term, a period of time. And so sometimes I ask people, I say, so well, how long do you want your income to last? Well, as long as I need it.
Yeah.
So would you be willing to give up a little bit of liquidity to make sure that you have the income that you need? Again, we never, ever put all of somebody's money into an annuity contract. In fact, rarely would it exceed 50%, okay? Because we know that people need liquidity. Also, we like the upside potential of the market sometimes. And on the managed money side of things here at Floyd Financial Group, a lot of people know we park our money at Schwab is who has custody of it. We don't have custody of it. It's a big, big company that does. But they hold the money and allow us to trade in the market. But if you think of it this way, if I take 100% of your money, let's say it's $500,000. If I take $250 and put it into an annuity contract that can't lose, and I have the other 50% that we manage, I've mitigated your risk 50% off the top right there. Boom. Also, we know that we can generally get at least 50 or maybe a little more percent of the upside of the market on the annuity side. And then when things are really great on the market side, which, we've had a lot of growth over the last 5 or 6 years and we have more to come, it's a win-win because we can manage that risk for you on the side that's in the market, and it's automatically managed inside the annuity for you. Now, every year we get a chance to look at how we might want to reallocate that money and use it inside the annuity. But boy, by doing that, we cut the risk in half. We can give you income. And when markets are bad, when the market's down 20, you're down 10 at worst, I would say. So it works out to be a great tool to mitigate risk, guarantee we can have income and growth all at the same time.
And annuities are offered by insurance companies, and there are a lot of insurance companies out there. Randy, how many annuities or annuity products are there out there, and how many do you use?
Well, realistically, there's probably 100 companies, and there's thousands of options and things to use. We typically are going to boil it down to where we're looking at what's going on in the market, the companies, the strength of them, and how long they've been in business, and what they're offering at the time. And then also we look at the integrity of the company. How have they treated clients historically is what we look at. And we pick the best of the bunch. So it's kind of a moving target, but there's generally 2 or 3 that we like to rely upon. And they're companies that have been around many times 100 or more years.
So, Randy, annuities sound like a pretty good deal for a lot of people, but who is an annuity actually a good fit for?
So I would say this way, and this is going to sound kind of funny, but let's talk about the fixed index annuities. So what are people really looking for that buy those? They're the ones that say, I'm bullish, meaning I think the market will go up, but I'm also part chicken. I think it might go down. Okay. So if you're bullish and chicken, you want an FIA because what it does is it gives you upside potential while protecting you from downside risk. So I think if you're in that boat, it is something that everyone should consider.
Yeah, I think also, Jeff, that appropriate sizing of an investment is a really big deal when it comes to the stock market, when it comes to bonds, when it comes to annuities in this case. I think the question is not necessarily, is the annuity right for me? It's more of a, how much should I have in alternative type investments, annuities, other things relative to the rest of my portfolio? What's important to me? Is it important to me to leave money to my beneficiaries? Is it important to have a good degree of safety so I can sleep at night? I think those are the questions. It's not so much this investment's right for everybody or that investment's right for everybody. In many cases, we want to have 2 or 3 or 4 buckets of money. The question is, how much do we want in each bucket?
And annuities are not an entire retirement plan, but they are a tool that we use here at Floyd Financial Group. You know, there's one fear that almost every retiree has, and it keeps them up at night sometimes. What if my money runs out before I do? And that's not just a fear. It is happening to people all around the Ozarks right now. Retirees who thought they were fine, or they're watching their accounts shrink. Inflation, rising costs, longer lifespans. It is creating a perfect storm. And once you're in retirement, you don't get a do-over. So if your plan is just hope the market works, that's not a plan. That is a gamble. If you need income you can count on, income that shows up every month no matter what the market does, because running out of money at 80, 85 is a crisis that you may not recover from. Possibly you want to think about the Floyd Financial Group Retirement Review. You can get it right now by calling 417-889-7233, and it is entirely complimentary. There is no cost, no obligation. There's no judgment. We'll meet you where you are. We'll show you exactly where your plan could fail and how to build an income plan designed to last as long as you do. 417-889-7233 is our number. You can also find out more about us online at FloydFinancialGroup.com. All right, Randy and Jake, it is time for another break. We come back here on Show Me the Money. We're going to be talking about set it and forget it. Well, that's exactly how you run out of money when our program continues here on 104.1 FM KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk.
We're back with your financial catch of the day, and it's a big one. Here's more Show Me the Money Radio with your hosts, Randy Floyd, Jake Floyd, and Jeff Shade.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Randy and Jake. You're listening to Show Me the Money, and in this segment, we're going to be talking about retirement. It's just to set it and forget it, right?
Yeah. A lot of people here in the Ozarks think that once you retire, the hard part is over. But what if I told you that's exactly when the real planning begins? Well, we're going to be talking about why a retirement plan is not set it and forget it. Randy, why do so many people think that retirement is just something that you can put on autopilot, sit back, and just let it fly the plane for you?
I think maybe some of that stems from looking back over our shoulder when you worked 35 years for one company and they had the pension fund, they gave you the gold watch, they booted you out the door and sent you a paycheck each month.
Right.
So it was one of those things that maybe it carried over from that. But also, and we talked about this earlier, the speed at which things change today is so fast. Used to be the old theory was to buy and hold, period.
Right.
And while you're younger, you can do some of that. You can be a little bit more aggressive and you can buy maybe the Qs or, invest in the NASDAQ or maybe in the broad market, the S&P 500, and just kind of set it and forget it and not worry about it until you hit maybe, 55 or so. And then you're sitting here thinking, okay, so I got 10 years left to work maybe, or maybe even less for some people. Now what? And how do I protect myself in the event something goes wrong? How do I make sure that I'm always going to have enough money to have the income that I need? And even though I may think it's on autopilot, what happens when interest rates go from 0 to 5.25, or when they go from 5.25 to 0? What happens when we have severe inflation? What happens when there's war and rumors of war and all the knee-jerk reactions that create dips and valleys and peaks in the market?
And we were talking earlier about people who retired in the 70s and 80s, and they got that retirement plan, and it worked for them then, but this is a whole different environment today in which things can totally change on a dime. So how does retirement actually change as people age?
Yeah, so as you retire, and let's say you're in your early 60s or maybe even your late 50s, some people are doing that, you're going to be more active. You're going to probably spend more money because all that time you used to spend at work, you're going to fill that time with something. And generally in today's world, everything costs money that I've found anyway. Then by the time maybe you get into your 70s, you start to slow down. Maybe you have some health issues. As Billy Crystal says, you have a procedure.
Yeah.
And you look in the mirror and you think, this is the best I'm ever going to look. I don't know if you remember that or not from City Slickers. That was such a good movie. Then you get to the 80s and now you're just thinking, hey, I don't need much. I just want to sit here and drink my coffee and rock in my chair and be sure that I can still pay the bills and make sure that if I have a major health event, I can take care of that. And also, I want to make sure that I can still tithe at church and take care of my family and help people when they need it, right?
Well, in the old days, if you retired, let's say that you did retire at 65, and as you mentioned, a lot of people retire earlier, some retire later. I mean, what worked for you at 65 probably worked for you till 85, because from 65 to 85, you didn't really do too much of anything, but maybe mow the grass and take care of a few things around the house. But today, people are in their 60s, they're traveling, they're riding bicycles, they've got an active lifestyle, and they spend a little more on that. I mean, bicycles today, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000. Of course, yours are a lot more than that, Randy. And then you get into the 70s, you're slowing down a little bit, you've got some more healthcare costs. In the 80s, simplicity, income stability, and possible care needs come into play. Life just isn't flat. It shifts and it changes, and you've got to be able to adapt to those changes. The plan you retire with won't be the plan that you finish with at all. So people are living longer. How big of a deal is that financially?
Well, it's a huge deal because even though we're living longer, and like you said, we're more healthy in the beginning, which means we're spending more. I remember when my grandma on my mom's side, Grandma Maggard, was 65. Man, she was bent over and
Yeah.
couldn't do much, right? And I think she ended up knowing now what it was. I think she had peripheral artery disease, PAD.
Right.
So every night she would sit there and rub her legs and it hurt. I remember her doing it all the time. But now, I guess, I don't know, 65 might be the new 50.
I think 70's the new 50.
It could very well be.
Yeah.
Over time, inflation slowly eats away at your purchasing power. So you need to make sure you got a plan in place that's going to help you adjust for that. What costs $1,000 today may, by the time you get toward the tail end, maybe $2,000. Sometimes people are too safe. Sometimes people are too aggressive, and we need a balance. And that's one of the things that we're here to help people do, is to navigate that, to look at what's going on. And with Jake and I now, I mean, collectively, we've got 50 years of investment, well, probably more than that. Of investment track record and that sort of thing. So we've seen a lot of stuff happen. But, running out of money is one of those things that some people say, well, it's bad luck. No, it's not really. I mean, if you got a rock solid plan, you understand what you're doing, you're not going to run out of money.
Absolutely. And you were talking about how your Grandma Maggard was sort of bent over at age 65. I go in places today. We go to a little breakfast spot, my wife and I, on a regular basis. And most of the people in there are older. And something that I didn't realize, if you're 65 years of age today, you got to have money for tattoos. How many times have you seen some? It's like 70 years old. They get tattoos and everything else. I don't know if the tattoos look good on somebody who's 70 years of age. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess to each their own there. I think the one thing that kind of comes out of all this for me, as I look back with what we've talked about, part of a plan is having a plan when things go wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's part of a plan. Not that you can't plan that nothing will ever go wrong, because I promise you, something will go wrong. It just will. Murphy's Law, right?
Exactly. What happens if the market drops suddenly or early in retirement? The plan that you had before the market dropped is not going to be the plan that gets you through.
Well, we always think about stress testing every plan that we do. We've always got that in the back of our mind. Okay, so what happens if the wheels fall off, right? What happens if there's a major war, rumor of war, Straits of Hormuz are blocked? What happens when all that stuff goes on? And how do we protect our clients against damage that cannot be recovered from?
Talking with Randy and Jake of Lloyd Financial Group, we're talking about why a set-it-and-forget-it retirement plan just doesn't work, because things change in the world. You evolve, you change as well, too, and you've got to have a retirement plan that keeps up with that. What about things that people can't control, Randy, like taxes or health care? Those can really upset the apple cart.
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's something that we know is going to come along. I often tell people this kind of tongue-in-cheek, none of us get out of here alive, right? I mean,
right.
It's one of those things, we're all going to meet our maker one of these days, and we don't know when that will be or what we will go through to get there, but we always have to be cognizant of the fact that we're going to have some trouble along the way, and that's part of the planning process, to be sure that we don't, during bad times, spend our money down too low to where we can't recover, and also we don't want to be so conservative that we can't make money back when things are good. Our basic philosophy here is, when we first meet a client, we want to discover what's important to them and understand them. Then we perform an analysis of kind of where they are, what kind of income they have. From there, we develop a plan that we talk about the plan with them and help them settle in on something. And then once we get the plan done, we help them implement that plan and get everything set up and get their income started. And from there, it's a constant monitoring situation. And so we're going to have review meetings with the client. Jake and I are reviewing the portfolios, watching what's going on, and thinking about what the next move is that we might need to make for the portfolio based on what's going on in the world today. So a whole lot of moving parts out there.
Yeah, taxes, they're a big part of retirement today. And if you had a tax plan, let's say 5, 6, 7 years ago today, Randy, is that tax plan still applicable today?
I'm going to say this. Yes, absolutely. Since Trump put his tax plan in place back in 2017, and then we didn't let it sunset in 25, things have been more predictable. However, we had the Secure Act and the Secure Act 2 that changed how RMDs work, how Roth distributions work, how Roth conversions work, how much money we can put into Roth IRAs. So have things changed? Absolutely. Have things gotten way out of hand? No. In fact, if we work things right, we probably have more tax savings opportunity today than ever before.
And we're in a historically low tax environment right now. Randy, do you think that once Trump is out of office, maybe somebody else comes in, if it's not a Republican, are we really looking at taxes rising a great deal?
That's hard to say. We have a lot of debt, as you know, $39 trillion or so is what that debt is right now. We're going to have to grow our way out of this situation. We can't cut enough programs and save enough money to ever do it that way. We have to grow and cut our way out of here. So could taxes go up significantly in the future? Yes, I think that they could, and I think it's something we need to always have in the back of our mind is what is the tax plan? What happens if taxes do go way up in the future? How do we manage that?
So, Randy, if people have a retirement plan right now, maybe they have gotten it a couple of years ago, what should they be doing as we speak today to make sure that their retirement plan is going to keep up?
Yeah, number one, I would ask you this. Are you having regular reviews with your current advisor? Because you need to be having those on somewhat of a regular basis. Are you talking to your advisor? Sometimes people think, well, it's kind of like my 401k. And when I went to work, I signed up and I picked my investments and I didn't look back for 30 years. Well, that's different now. We don't want to stay there. We want to make sure that we're reviewing and staying on top of it. And that you have somebody that really cares about what's going on and what's happening to you. Here of late, just several times I've heard people, they came in and they said, I haven't talked to my advisor in 7 years. Well, that's problematic.
Yeah.
That's really not good. Or they say, every time I talk to them, all they do is say, hey, it's all good, don't worry about it. So I think that we need to have a little bit more of an explanation than that. We need to have a conversation with people, help to educate them a little bit to the level they want to be at least, as to what we're thinking, what's happening, and why it's happening, and maybe what the future's potentially going to hold for their money.
Well, Randy, I think here's the truth for most folks. People listening right now do not have a retirement plan. They've got a snapshot, something that they set up years ago and they haven't touched since. And that's exactly how people here in the Ozarks end up running out of money. Life changes, the market changes, taxes change, your health changes. If your plan hasn't changed, well, you got a problem. That's why Randy and Jake and the team here at Floyd Financial Group are offering a complimentary retirement review. They'll show you where you're exposed, where you may be losing money, and how to turn what you've saved into income that you can actually live on. If you'd like to have your Floyd Financial Group retirement review at no cost and no obligation, call us here at 417-889-7233. You can do it right now if you want. Ashley will call you back during the week and set up that appointment for you. Again, no cost, no obligation, 417-889-7233. Don't wait until something breaks to fix your plan. Randy and Jake, time for a break. We come back here on Show Me the Money. We're going to be talking about what you're retiring to and not just from when our program continues here on 104.1 FM KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk.
Ready to climb a mountain of financial know-how? Good, because it's time for more Show Me the Money with your financial Sherpas, Randy and Jake Floyd.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Randy and Jake. You're listening to Show Me the Money. And in this segment, I got a question for you. What are you retiring to, not just from?
So, Randy, most people think that retirement planning starts with a number, do I have enough? But what if that's completely backwards? We always hear, what's your number? Why is that the wrong place to start with a retirement plan, Randy?
Well, number one, for you to find out what your number is, you got to know what it is you want to do when you retire, right? So that's why we always kind of start there and say, what's important to you? What are you trying to accomplish? And what do you plan to do when you retire? And oh, by the way, have we figured out what that's going to cost?
Yeah. I mean, if your number is quite low, if you're going to sit on the back porch and sip the coffee and watch the cows graze and the grass grow and so forth, but if you want to maybe go on some bicycle trips, you want to travel the country, travel the world, your number is going to be a whole lot different.
That's for sure. And it's just something that needs to be addressed on the front end so that you can start to really put a plan together for folks. And we like to be the bearer of great news, but sometimes we're not the bearer of great news. We will base all of the news we give you in fact, right. Not fiction, and not, boy, I wish that were the case, right?
Yeah.
But most people come in and they have realistic goals and dreams and things that they want to accomplish. And then what we do is go about developing a plan that helps support those goals and dreams. And that's what's really important, because the money isn't necessarily the goal. And even after a while, as you get a little older, you've experienced a lot in life. You've paid off a house. You've raised a family. You've had 15,000 cars. You've had, over your lifetime. And it's all those things, right? And so now it's a little bit different. So we have to figure out, what do we do? How do we want to fill our time? What's important to us? I like to travel some, but I will tell you, after about day 4, I'm ready to be home.
Right, you're ready to come back now. I understand how that is. So how do you actually figure out what your retirement lifestyle is going to cost? You sit down with somebody and you say, okay, let's find out what you want to do. And they say, well, I want to travel the world. And we get the reality check and we say, well, you really can't travel the world. You can go to Paris, all right, but it's going to be Paris, Kentucky, or it's going to be Rome, New York, or something like that.
Or Versailles, Missouri.
Versailles, Missouri. And we got a Versailles in Ohio, too. But how do you actually figure out what your lifestyle is going to cost? You sit down and say, okay, well, you can't do that. You can do this. Here's the figure that we're going to put on that.
So here's what's interesting about that. As we age and we raise our family and pay off houses and all that sort of thing, we haven't had a budget in years, because we probably made more money in the last few years than we've ever made, most likely, and everything's paid off. And so it's not something we've had to think about. But all of a sudden, I sit down with people and say, okay, we need a budget. And they don't like that. It's a deer in the headlights look. I said, look, I'm not trying to put you on a budget as much as I need you to understand what it is that you spend on basics, number one. And then number two, what do you want for play money? What do you want for fun money? And what are we going to do? And how much is it going to cost? And that's kind of how we arrive at what makes sense for people. And it's a fun process, actually. But when I first tell people, I'm going to put you on a budget, well, no, you're not. I'm not about putting you on a budget. I'm just going to help you understand what budget you need to sustain what you're saying you want to do.
Right, and a lot of people here in the Ozarks, too, they want to travel a little bit. It is quite beautiful in this part of the country, so they want to travel around locally, and maybe they're going to get an RV, one of those recreational vehicles. RVs are not inexpensive these days. Have you priced an RV lately, Randy?
Have not. However, I know that even in the past, some of these big bus-looking things you see going down the road
yeah.
are $1,500,000.
I know. That's crazy.
You
So
know.
people want to travel around the Ozarks here. That takes a certain amount of money, but if you want one of those buses, that's going to cost a lot more. Why is it so important to connect money to a purpose, do you think, Randy?
Well, because again, around my house, I mean, I leave the house and go down the road 50 feet. It costs me something, right?
Oh, yeah.
But so everything does cost money. There's really not anything that's just free out there. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that is free, but most of the time it's travel to get there or to get back or to eat something while we're there or to have a place to lay our head and sleep so we can get up the next day and do it again, right? So everything just costs money. And so I think it's just really important that people have considered what they're really going to do. And some people find out that retirement is not what they thought it was going to be. For some people, it ends up being lonely. They feel disconnected. And they have to find new ways and new things. And I'll give you an example. I have one lady that they retired. Her husband passed away, and she just felt really lonely and disconnected from everything. So she ended up going to her local YMCA. Actually, it wasn't a YMCA. It was like a community center type thing, right? And they have a pool and a workout room and all that. So she went in there and she started doing water aerobics. And then after she did water aerobics, she went in and she started doing some regular aerobics, and then she started doing some spin bike things, where you sit stationary and spin on a bike. Well, today she's teaching classes 5 days a week, doing those things.
Yeah,
And she's got all kinds of friends. She's never been happier. So you just don't know where it's going to go. And that's also probably going to lead her to live a very long life.
Yeah, and it reminds me of the man who the wife says to the financial advisor, you got to help me. He's driving me crazy. And this was, this didn't have to do with money at all.
Right.
And it turned out that the guy, he was a woodworker and he loved to build things. Same kind of thing. They got him set up down at Home Depot or Lowe's or one of those places, and he ran a class on how to build things.
Yeah.
And it was just on a Saturday morning or something. Now he's like conducting 5 classes on a weekly basis. He's out from under his wife's feet. And again, both of them have never been happier than they have before. So I think that the purpose of this conversation is to discover why you're retiring, what you're retiring to, not what you're retiring from. So let's continue that conversation. Randy, you mentioned something interesting, emotional side of that. Emotions have a lot to do with your retirement reality, don't they?
Well, yeah, because at some point, and it's different for everybody, right? But there are some people that work has always been a 4-letter word.
Right.
And then there are those that work was never a 4-letter word, and everybody in between. And so it takes all kinds to make a world, and everything works together, right? And that's why it's just different for everybody. And some people need to work part-time. Some people like to give money away and help family and do things like that. Others want to go and hike in the mountains. And I was watching a guy over the weekend. He took a 7-day trip down some river in the Yukon. The guy flew him in on a float plane and left him there. And I'm thinking,
wow.
Yeah, I thought, wow. And then I thought,
you paid for this.
I'm not into that. The last time I went fishing in Alaska, we had a chef. They cooked for us. We had a maid.
Oh, my gosh.
And we'd catch these fish and we'd never touch them.
Right. Well, they got grizzly bears up there too. Leech alive.
They did have bears up there. My wife said there's this term called glamping.
Oh, I've heard about that. Yeah.
She says, I'm a glamper. I am not a camper.
Well, doing something like that costs a certain amount of money. And do you get people who come in, and we're doing lifestyle planning here? You're talking about the who, what, when, where, and why of retirement. And I think you mentioned the fact that sometimes you have to be grounded in reality. Well, you want to do this, but here's more than likely what you're able to afford. Are you ever the bearer of good news? People say, well,
oh, yeah,
I couldn't do that. I don't have enough money to do that. But can you talk a little bit about how sometimes that you can surprise people?
Absolutely. So I will tell you that there are times that people walk in here, and after we do their assessment, we go, you cannot afford to keep working.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about that last week.
Exactly.
On our show, where that's probably one of my favorite parts about my job is get to sit down, we do the analysis, and we're like, well, why haven't you quit yet?
Yeah,
exactly.
And they're like, what do you mean? And they're like, well,
didn't know I could.
Like Randy said, in some cases, he's being literal, meaning if you keep working, you actually make less than if you quit. And, that happens occasionally. But I think that question, sometimes we put it into a dollar amount. We say, okay, if you work another 2 years, that's going to get you another $300 a month to live on in retirement.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to just decide, is that worth it to me?
Right.
To have another $300 a month? I don't know about you, but 2 years of my life is worth more than $300 a month.
Oh, absolutely.
And ultimately, the only true currency is time.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Time will get you money.
Yeah.
It'll get you the things you want to do, but the only real money, the only real currency is time.
Yeah.
What we try to do is analyze things and go, okay, should I retire at 62 or 65? Well, let's see what the difference really looks like. And most of the time when we do that, if you've done a decent job saving, you're going to look at me and go, the next 3 years of my life is going to be probably the best 3 years of my life. If we're over the age of 18, the next 5 years is going to be the best 5 years, right? That's just the nature of the beast, so to speak. But I think life is short and you should enjoy it. And we'd love to be there to help you do that.
Those are some very good points, Randy and Jake. Most people listening right now have spent their whole lives working hard and saving what they can, but they've never actually stopped to ask the most important question. What do I want my life to look like when I'm done working? Because if you don't know that, you don't know how much you need, you don't know how to invest, you don't know if you're on track or headed for trouble, and that is exactly why Randy and Jake here at Floyd Financial Group are offering a complimentary Floyd Financial Group retirement review to help you define your lifestyle and put some real numbers to it. If you'd like yours, no cost, no obligation. It's 417-889-7233. Make that call right now if you want. Leave your name and number. Ashley will call you back and set up that conversation. 417-889-7233. Don't just retire from something, retire to something worth living for. Well, Randy and Jake, we just get started and we run out of time. I want to thank you for your time, but most importantly, I want to thank our great citizens here of the Ozarks for joining us. So for Randy and Jake, I'm Jeff Shade. Have a great weekend. We'll talk to you again next week right here with another edition of Show Me the Money on 104.1 FM KSGF, where Springfield comes to talk.
The information provided in the preceding program is for educational purposes only and is not intended as investment advice for any individual or entity. All information contained herein is believed to be from reliable sources. However, we make no representations as to its completeness or accuracy. The opinions expressed are subject subject to change without notice and do not constitute financial, legal, or tax advice. Please consult your financial professional before executing any financial strategy. Financial planning is offered through Floyd Financial Group, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.